Hello class, my name is Rami Jabrini and I'm here to talk about anti-Semitism. In any historical work of fiction, an understanding of the historical context for the action in the story can significantly enhance the appreciation of it. Alan Gratz, Refugee, is no exception. To more fully appreciate Gratz's novel, it helps to understand a little bit more about anti-Semitism, how and why it became so popular in Nazi Germany. Anti-Semitism is hostility toward or discrimination against Jews as a religious, ethnic, or racial group. To help explain that, I will explain the state of anti-Semitism in Germany before the Nazis took over, the propaganda that the Nazi party distributed to the people, and finally the psychological theory of scapegoating. To start off, let's talk about anti-Semitism before the Nazi took over. The first factor that helped the spread of anti-Semitism in Nazi Germany is the fact that it already existed, although it wasn't as intense. For example, following Germany lost in the Great War in 1918, it was widely believed among the right-wing circles that Jews were the reason for the war's loss. Indeed, they claimed that the war wasn't lost on the battlefield, but rather it was lost because of a change in government that occurred when the Republicans took over the government. Shortly after, they signed the armistice that resulted in the end of the war. The advocates of this theory claims that the Republicans were Jews and they stabbed the country in the back to gain control of the government, thus creating the stab in the back myth. The second factor that helped the spread of anti-Semitism is the mass propaganda that was made by the Nazi Party at the start of 1933. Indeed, when Hitler and his Nazi Party came to the power, he wanted to make sure that his message of hate toward Jews was received by all. To do so, he created a ministry of propaganda that not only created new myths that showed the Jews in a very despicable manner, but they used old ones and oftentimes incorporated them as part of history. For example, the previously seen stab in the back myth was now taught in their history books. The people were told that the Jews conspired and betrayed the country only to gain power. His propaganda was spread pretty much everywhere, from art, theater, films, music, books, radio, schools, and obviously in the press. They made sure that Jews were seen as subhuman who are parasites to the Aryan society. The third reason why Jews were hated in Nazi Germany is that the people absolutely needed a scapegoat for their misery. To better understand this, it helps to understand the state of the country at the time. After the loss of the First World War, the country was in great debt. Indeed, Germany was held responsible for the war and had to pay the hallucinating sum of 132 billion gold marks, which was worth in 2005 $393.6 billion US dollars. When the Great Depression hit, Germany was now at rock bottom. In 1933, Germany had over 6 million people that were out of jobs. Millions couldn't be able to get food, and as a result, many suffered from malnutrition, and thousands died, including children. Thus, the whole country was very poor, unemployed, and hungry. They were in a miserable state, and from there came the need to blame their horrific state on someone, also known as scapegoating. To be more concise, scapegoating is when a person or a group of persons are being blamed for the trouble that another person or group of persons are going through. It is a defense mechanism that humans use to relieve themselves from their problems. Usually, the scapegoat is eliminated because the in-group thinks that all the problems will cease. It wasn't the case in Nazi Germany. The people were going through a crisis, and Hitler, through all the propaganda, gave them a scapegoat, the Jews. In the span of a few years, they were kicked out of the country or sent to a concentration camp in hopes to better the country by eliminating them. To conclude, reasons why anti-Semitism became so popular was because it already existed, the Nazis distributed mass propaganda, and finally the Germans needed someone to blame all of their misery on. That's why Jews went through all of these horrific things, and that will help us understand better Joseph's situation and why everyone seems to hate him. Thank you very much. Have a good day.